Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to What is America to You. I'm your host, Derek Dempsey, and we're coming at you from a cold New York. I'm going to say I mean me and Jessica.
Everybody, thanks for coming back.
Back after Christmas, back after New Year's, and into this miserable January in New York.
Oh my God, yeah.
Freezing. Okay, before we start, we really still need you to subscribe because, then it's not going to subscribe itself, right? Also, thanks for the thumbs up and for the couple of people that gave us a thumbs down. That was probably me and Jessica. And also the comments keep coming in, and particularly Sam and my sister-in-law Karen are always consistent. Thank you so much for that, keeping the conversation flowing. Okay, today we have one of America's most iconic singer-songwriters. He happens to have written arguably the most iconic American song.
Yeah, I would say, yeah.
Probably the most.
Absolutely, yep.
And also other songs of his, including this song, have been sung by Elvis Presley, Perry Como, Glenn Campbell, George Michael. Too many to mention. He has been inducted into the Songwriters Hall of Fame, the Grammys Hall of Fame, and he has been the recipient of the George and Ira Gershwin Award. He's also the direct inspiration behind the classic song Killing Me Softly, which was a hit for the Fugees in the 90s, and Roberta Flack in the 70s. And he's also been cited as a direct influence on artists across generations, all the way up to Tupac Shakur and Jake Bugg. Also, interestingly, he's the ambassador for Teen Cancer America. Okay, our next guest wrote so many classics, but we all particularly know Vincent, Starry, Starry Nights. We know And I Love You So, which is a song my mother always sang. And his classic American song was American Pie. We all know that song. Everybody knows that song.
Everybody does, yeah.
So it's our honour. And without further ado, we want to introduce to you the iconic Don McLean. Welcome to What is America to You. How are you today?
I've been better, but I'm very good. I don't like being home for 11 months, but I've managed to do a whole lot of new things. All sorts of stuff. I've started a YouTube channel, and I put out an album, and I've written a bunch of new songs for another album that's going to come out this year. And I'm learning how to cook, so I've got all kinds of recipes on my phone now. And when I go to the grocery store, it's actually exciting. It is. It's a whole different thing.
Well, my wife is a big cook and a big fan of you, so she'll love to hear that.
Well, it's amazing. And, it's so rich, and there's so many ways of doing things. And, you can keep yourself well fed, and you don't have to eat food out because everything's closed, right? And you don't have to eat fast food, which is no good. So all of a sudden I feel liberated,
Brilliant. And you mentioned your last album released in October, Playing Favorites Again, a follow-up to Playing Favorites. I love that you did a Mahalia Jackson song on that.
That was, which one was that now? Was that I'm Gonna Live the Life I Sing About? Yeah.
That's the one.
Yeah, she also sang a wonderful song, It Don't Cost Very Much. I wanted to do that one. Beautiful song, like a pass it forward. Do something nice for a person. Give them a drink of water to a pilgrim who needed such. It don't cost very much, And the thing about it is, we're in a world. America has become so fixated on wealth and really distorted and perverse numbers of dollars that people have, and do we really think about being nice to other people and doing something for them? And me, I'm 75 years old. I mean, I don't know how long I'm going to be around. I don't want to be thinking about taking things. I want to be giving things from now on, and I always have tried to. But show business is a nasty business. And if you let people do it, they'll steal everything you have. So you learn to be protective that way, but it's not a good thing. You should be giving.
Well, songwriters, by their very nature, I think, are very given. And there was a great quote that you talked about. You had a great relationship and friendship with Pete Seeger. And you
I
said
did.
we didn't always agree politically, but we always agreed on the value of human life. That struck me.
Yes. Well, Pete was against so many things, but he was also very seductive. And I learned that there's a lot of ways to perform on a stage. You don't have to have brickbats. You can be very subtle and seductive. And I would kid about him, kid with him. I say, you're a communist for God's sakes, and you're collecting all these royalties. I mean, what's the matter with you? Why don't you give those away? Well, he really did give a lot away. I got to tell you. I mean, I don't recall him almost ever doing a job for money. Every now and then he would, in the summertime, his finances would be in disarray, and he would do a tour, maybe with somebody and play big places and make money. And he always gave everything away. He was a very generous person, and so that's another thing that I realized too, that when you get into show business again, it's all about, in the beginning, the most fun for me was 1960 to 1970, because that was that was when I was finding myself. That was when I was realizing I maybe had a little talent. Maybe I could do this. Maybe I could do that. After that, it became business. How many records have you sold? How many people came tonight? Did you sell the show out? Blah, 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 blah. And it wasn't fun for me. I didn't care about that much.
Don, I know you mentioned Frank Sinatra, and on the show, I'm a huge Sinatra fan, and I always try
Yeah.
my best not to mention Frank Sinatra, but here I go again. I
Oh,
can't
no,
help it.
please do. Please do. I'm a fanatic about Frank Sinatra. I know a lot about him.
Brilliant, me too. So one of my favorite things is Alan Livingston, who signed you for your first album. He signed Sinatra in 1952. You probably know
That's
this.
right.
On a napkin across the road from the Capitol building. The same man who signed the greatest singer ever lived signed you.
Yeah, well, he thought that was one of the validating things about Alan Livingston. Alan Livingston was very vocal about the fact that he thought I was the best thing he'd ever seen. My songwriting, my singing, everything. He really was in my corner, and I didn't have anybody, for a long, long time. But I'll tell you a funny thing. He told me something. We got together later on, and he said, when I took over Capitol Records and Frank left, to start Reprise, and he came out with a Ring-a-Ding-Ding album, the first album, right, which is a killer record. I forget who, Jimmy Haskell or somebody arranged it. It was just different from a lot of his other arrangements. Terrific record. So he said, what I immediately did was put every Frank Sinatra out, 2 for the price of 1. And they called them twofers. He said, he was out to destroy Frank's record deal. And so he said Sinatra didn't speak to him for like 3 years. And then finally at a party somewhere, I guess they traveled in the same rarefied circles. Sinatra, he was doing okay and figured that's just the name of the game, but he was annoyed at Alan Livingston for doing that.
And you knew Alan Livingston pretty well?
Yeah. He had a brother named Jay Livingston who was a songwriter. I think he wrote some Christmas classics like Silver Bells, or he wrote a lot of songs, Jay Livingston. So the two of them were very interesting guys.
Yeah, I seen the name Jay Livingston on a Nat King Cole song. I just can't think of it now, and I don't want to.
But that's his brother.
That's
Yeah.
brilliant.
What kind of family was that,
I know.
Really?
I also see Joel Dorn is a connection with you too.
Oh, geez. Joel was in a class by himself. There was nobody like him. He was one of the funniest people, and also one of the most sincere. I miss the guy. He died in his eye doctor's office. And I had been working with him. I'd put out an album. I was going to put out another record together. We'd reconnected because we'd done the Homeless Brother album. And I had a very dastardly manager whose name I won't mention, who found a way to sabotage our relationship. And we didn't talk for a lot of years. I thought it was something he did. He thought it was something I did, one of those things. And we found out. So we got back together. We made an album called Rearview Mirror. And at that point, Joel had had dozens of Grammys and did Roberta Flack's albums, discovered Roberta Flack, did Bette Midler, did Redbone. In fact, he got me to play banjo on a couple of Redbone tracks. One of them is called Polly Wolly Doodle. So he said, Redbone's doing this stuff. You want to come in and play banjo? Because I was a pretty good banjo player when I was young. So I went in, I had a blast doing that. And he was always, there was always activity in the studio. People were always around, coming and going. You might run into a comedian, some great jazz singer would come in and listen and sit around. You just never knew, because they loved him. He was so funny.
Yeah.
I remember I brought him to Central Park when I played with Garth Brooks, and I had a trailer. Garth was first class, all the way. Had a big trailer that was my own trailer, and I had my cousin come down, and I had Joel come down, and Garth comes in and says hello, and meets everybody, and then he leaves, and Joel looked at me and said, "Did you see those eyes?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Did you really see those eyes? You see what's in those eyes? I'll tell you what's in those eyes. If there was food for one, he'd get it."
Brilliant. We had Billy Vera on here on our show, What is America to You? And he was talking about Joel Dorn, but he also little Jimmy Scott, who later became Jimmy Scott, was connected with Joel Dorn as well. He's a legendary name.
He made hundreds of jazz albums, with all kinds of jazz luminaries. He was called himself the masked announcer. He was the masked announcer, and he was a radio disc jockey first, and then drifted into, just had to get with Atlantic Records. That was his home. And they recognized his genius, and I can't tell you how this guy made records, because it was not like anybody else ever. He was part your friend, and he was your psychiatrist, and he was your buddy, and he was telling you could do this. He would, like a Martin Scorsese or those people that get a better performance out of somebody than they think they can do. That's how he was.
Well, you did talk about one of the most important things in a studio for an artist is to be positive. Like I firmly believe, and no, that doesn't work. Kills an artist's vibe.
Oh, I mentioned that in the American Pie documentary about Ed Freeman, and I was unfair to Ed, because I've since called him and told him how much I appreciated what he did for me, because he was going through his own struggles, and he just never saw anybody like me. I had, if there were 10 tracks, every track was totally different. On that record, there's Sister Fatima, and there's American Pie, and there's Babylon, and there's The Grave. Where did that come from?
Grave.
So he didn't get me, and he said that to me. He said, "Don, I want to thank you for saying that to me. It's the best thing. I'm so happy you said that." He said, "I didn't understand your vision." And I told him I didn't either, I was just doing what I was trying to do, but he was we're good friends now. And he made it all happen in his own way. I needed direction, and I needed, but I'm a person who is like a wild animal. I've never been told what to do. I've never had a job. I do what I want to do, and I do it how I want to do it. And I try to work with people. But when they start telling me what to do, then they're history. I can't, because I know what I want to do.
Yeah, clearly.
And therein lies the story of my bad attitude, or wherever that precedes me. But
well, they always say that about people who know what they want, and which leads me to The Grave. That whole album I heard when I was 12, so I know that album inside out. The Winter World.
Yeah, Winterwood.
Winterwood, I'm sorry, the drums on that. Oh,
Yeah.
amazing. But then George Michael sang that song, and before we get
Yeah.
into that, he was a guy who knew what he wanted, and he had that reputation that you were talking about, where he knew the direction he wanted to go, just like you did, and people
Well,
don't like that sometimes.
It all brings us back to Frank. You know, who told Frank what to do?
Nobody.
Frank knew what he wanted, man. And if he
Yeah.
didn't like somebody in the horn section, the guy was gone.
Yep.
You know, he heard everything. I hear everything.
I love
And
what
I hear
Nelson.
things I hear things the producer doesn't hear. That's the problem. You know, I'll get crossways with a producer and say, "Oh, there's something wrong over there." And he says, "What are you talking about?" I said, "Just listen, you'll hear it." But the thing about it is that if you don't make a great record, you'll never hear about that song. If you don't make a great record, you're not going to hear about the song. So, an Ed Freeman, Dave Cavanaugh, I think, produced the Capitol stuff for Frank.
right.
You know, with those great arrangers, they have to have the right engineer, the right studio. They had chamber echo under those parking lots at Capitol. Man, and nothing sounds like that. I mean, so, but George Michael's version of that song, I sat and watched that. I gave him an enormous amount of credit for standing up to George Bush and his attack on Iraq when nobody else was saying a word. They were all afraid because they'd had that Patriot Act passed, and they were afraid if you said anything, you're going to go to jail and they'd never find you. He stood up and sang my song. And I thought, God, tears came to my eyes. And I said, you know, that guy sang that song so much better than I did. I mean, I couldn't believe the skill he had. He's a tremendous entertainer and a tremendous interpreter of music.
Don, I agree with you. I think George Michael, David Bowie, you, Frank Sinatra, all in that same group. George Michael's an incredible singer, and what a great compliment from you
Yeah.
to say that, because you sing it brilliantly.
I was expected to be disappointed. Okay. I was expecting to be disappointed. I said, okay, I'll listen to this guy try to sing this song. Okay. I listened to it with the strings, the way he used his hands, the way he sang things. Oh my God. I said, this is beautiful. You know, what a great
From here,
talent, you know.
right from the heart. He meant that.
I know.
He
And that's
cared about
key.
human life.
Well, this is interesting. You know, Jack Nicholson has been retired now, you know, quite a while, but he's a brilliant guy, you know, and he now and then gives interviews. And he said something, you talk about from the heart. He said, I don't think audiences want to be moved anymore. I don't think they want to feel things.
Yeah.
And boy, you know, he distilled exactly what it is that's gone out of life in America. You want to know what America is? It's a country now that doesn't want to be moved, and it always did before.
Yeah.
Look at the songs they wrote in World War II, you know, and in the 1950s, the songs just kept coming. It's once that disco stuff started and people started snorting coke and dancing, you know, they lost their minds.
Yeah, I hear you, Don. And speaking of songwriting, because we don't have all day, and believe me, I could talk to you all week about music.
Sure.
Your songwriting, I always talk about songwriters that are able to use modulations that are woven into the song, like the way the Great American Songbook did. Paul McCartney did it.
Correct.
David Bowie did it. You do it. For instance, in American Pie, you've an A minor, but you've also got an A7.
Yeah.
And it's all over your songs. It gives this movement of mood. Would you say that was something you had naturally, or was what was brought to you from listening to Ella Fitzgerald and Frank Sinatra and Nat King Cole?
All that, you know, to any songwriters out there, you only get out what you put in. So if you listen to garbage, you're going to get garbage out. You have to listen to good stuff and just pour it into your head. Listen to it all the time when you're growing up, and eventually stuff will come out of you that is beautiful. If you listen to ugly, ugly's going to come out of you. And so that's very simple. But I have a few rules. I don't like fade outs. I don't particularly like modulations. And I don't try to use stupid words that are meaningless. Sometimes songwriters will use a couple of dumb words in order to get to the word they really want to say. And they're missing the chance to put two important words in there to say even more than they would say. And so I'm always aware of the fact that there's a gap there with some bullshit word in there that I don't really want, and I figure, what do I really want to say here? And then back off of that and redo it all together until I get it right. So there's little things like that. Keeping everything, every word, every note has got to matter.
That's a mini masterclass in songwriting. Quick question: when you say modulation, you mean at the end of the song, let's bring everything up?
Yes, you to the next key. That's usually that's an admission of boredom.
Great. I agree.
You're bored with it now, so we'll switch the key, keep your attention for another go round, and we're out of here. Now there are very cool ways of doing modulations. Larry Butler on the Chain Lightning album I made with him, I think, and I may be wrong about this, modulated in this very lovely version of Your Cheating Heart. And he did it so sneaky that, that it felt just perfect,
Yeah, well, like you take Frankie Valli, I Can't Take My Eyes Off of You.
Yeah.
That's great modulation and very clever. You don't even notice it. It creeps up in you.
Yeah. Da, 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 I love you, baby. In the new key. Yeah. Well, that was Bob Crew. He was a pretty slick operator, that guy. He had the Crew records, which I think Frankie Valli scored that hit on Crew records when he moved away from the, I love the Four Seasons, but he didn't really need them.
No.
He can do, all he needed was a good arranger and a hot arrangement and a great song, and he could do anything.
Bob Gaudio was a great songwriter, of course, in that.
Oh, definitely.
Setup. Beautiful songwriter.
Totally. Well, there's things about these groups that are so miraculous, like the Beach Boys, for example. Now, Brian and Mike fight all the time, right? But to me, and I love everything about the Beach Boys, Mike Love should worship Brian Wilson, because those are the only songs Mike Love could ever sing. It's fun, and nobody can sing it better than him.
Exactly.
What can Mike Love do? Can Mike Love sing Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas? I don't think so.
No, me neither. Don, you brought me two things. One, the song that Brian Wilson wrote, The Warmth of the Sun, another classic with a great change, genius songwriting. But he said about you, Don McLean's voice would cut through ice.
Steel,
sorry, I apologize, steel.
That's an even heavier comment. I want to say that Mike Love is a very fine songwriter. He's very talented, and he's been given a little short shrift in the press. They don't realize how those songs would not have been written without Mike Love, and that's why he had that lawsuit and got credit for all those songs. I Get Around, fun, because Brian was in the sandbox. He wasn't he wasn't surfing, and he wasn't on his motorcycle, but Mike Love was, and so was Dennis Wilson. So that's just to straighten that out. Mike Love's a terrific talent.
I agree. Speaking of terrific talents, you are one of the greatest, and they're announcing on February 1st your star in the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Am I correct in saying that?
That's all been moved now because of the pandemic. The going to the 3rd to sing at Surf Ballroom has been moved. They've moved the Grammys a month away. This thing is just such a groove killer, but it's also a killer. So we have to be, of course, we have to be mindful of 330,000 dead people that have happened because of this. And to me, to go around moaning about the fact that I can't have what I want when I want it is pathetic, and I don't want to do that.
Right.
So I'm sorry for everybody that's suffered so much in this.
Of course, I mean, I won't add to that because you're 100% right. So you don't know whether the world tour is going to go ahead in 2021. We'll have to wait and see.
We'll just have to go. That everybody's doing the same thing.
Yeah.
I mean, Mick Jagger must be crawling the walls,
Yeah.
Can't
You're
wait
right.
to get out and sing somewhere, and the guy's got to be home.
Yeah.
That's not him,
Well, that's what we do. We're musicians. I play Times Square, 250 shows a year. Jessica plays music, and we're out of work. This is what made us start this show. It's like a killer.
It
As you
really
say.
is. It's killed us particularly.
Yeah.
The live music business has, but if you have, and I'm fortunate enough to have some songs that people want to hear, they're listening more than ever to them because they're home, and looking at websites and discovering things about music and entertaining themselves. So in that sense, I have been blessed. Many ways I've been blessed, but in the middle of this, I've lost the road, but I've gained a whole other thing.
Do you go out much, like to the store or anything?
Yeah, like I said, going to the grocery store is a big thrill now.
Oh, yeah, the
and
cooking.
so yeah, I do that. I go to the grocery store. I have friends. I go have drinks with a friend who's a jeweler. He's got a full bar in his jewelry store, so we sit and have a few drinks.
Speaking of drinking, I know you're of Scottish descent and a lot of the Celtic connection in there.
Yeah.
I'm amazed that you can understand me being Irish. And you're very loved in Ireland, and you have an affiliation with Ireland, and you've done Shenandoah many times.
You're very easy to understand. It's Scottish people I can't understand. I think Scottish people should come with subtitles because I can't understand what they're saying.
Scottish people don't understand what other Scottish people are saying.
That's right.
But you did great version of Shenandoah.
The number one that I had over there was, yes, I did do that song, but I also did The Mountains of Mourne. That was number one in Ireland, and that song is still right up there with every other song I ever wrote as far as the Irish audience is concerned.
Yeah, oh, they love you. I wanted to say also, my friend David Dash, who's written liner notes for your albums, and
Oh, David Dash, of course, yeah.
yeah,
He's a Don McLean expert.
he is. He's and he knows everything. Like, I talk to him nightly, and the stuff that he knows, he gives me a run for my money, and he probably has given you a run for your money. Credible guy, and he's a lot of the reasons why we're lucky enough to talk to you today, Don.
Well, I'm delighted to say hello to David Dash from you. I haven't heard from him in a while.
Right. I'll send him this. Well, Don, I know that I would keep talking, but I know that we were given 20 minutes, and I don't want to be disrespectful.
Well, let's see. What's the next thing I got to do? Is there something else right now? Yeah, I got to get off now, unfortunately.
Well, okay, Don, I leave you with this. Can I ask you? I know you started off singing the song, but what is America to you, Don McLean?
Well, the America to me was sportsmanship. Was being the best you could be, trying to be number one, but if you got beaten, you said to the guy, okay, I'll lick you tomorrow. You beat me now, but I'll get you tomorrow. And then you're friends. That's what America was to me, that kind of attitude. Yeah. Not an attitude like I must win or I'm going to hate you forever, this kind of thing. A camaraderie. Roosevelt said, we face the future with optimism and confidence. We are Americans.
Brilliant. That's a great saying. Well, Don, that's a great way to end. I cannot thank you from me and Jessica and all of us here.
Thank you so much, yeah.
And What is America to you, Don McLean? It has been an absolute honor. Thank you so much.
Well, wonderful show, and thank you for having me on.
Thank you, Don. Have a great day.
All right.
Bye. Don McLean. Icon. Legend. You don't get much bigger than that.
That was amazing. We had Don McLean on the
know.
show. That's great.
When we started this, I remember telling you this, and we talked this morning. We had like a certain list, and we had a middling list of really big people. Then we had like the gigantic list, and on top, I called it the Big 30. And the number one was Paul McCartney, Bob Dylan, and Van Morrison. And you're thinking, you're never going to get Van Morrison. You're never going to get them. But what down the list, number 6 or 7 was Don McLean. So we've gotten the first name off our Big 30. Now it's the Big 29.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Don McLean. What was really interesting there is At the beginning of every show, I always try to say, let's not talk about Sinatra, or let's not talk about my usual civil rights or gay rights, whatever, you know, because you don't want to bore people with the same subjects. So I'm going, this time I'm not going to talk Sinatra. So as soon as we make the Zoom connection with Don McLean, he's sitting there and he sings What Is America to Me, which is a lyric from the song that Sinatra did in 1941 and won a special Grammy for. Song was called The House I Live In, and it was about tolerance in America with different ethnicities and all that. And Don McLean opens up singing this song. He gets the title of our show.
Oh, that's so cool.
Oh, man. Anyway, we recorded it because Jessica is always on the ball. So we're going to play you out with that. But before we do, thank you for tuning in. Thanks for subscribing. And please subscribe. We're giving you Don McLean an icon. Get your granny to subscribe. Your goldfish, your amoeba, anything. Get them a computer. Get them there. Also, thanks for the thumbs up. Keep commenting. Keep tuning in. We got loads more guests coming up. And from me and Jessica, What Is America to You? Goodbye for now. We let Don McLean play it out.
Okay.
That's great.
Perfect.
What is America to me? The name, the map, the flag I see. A certain word, democracy. What is America to me? The house I live in. Da-da-da-da. It's the house you live in, see? That's what democracy, that's what America is in the song. And that's the house we all live in, right?
Driving along, minding my own business, heading east through the Kentucky rain. There on the radio, Johnny Cash was singing. I hurt myself just to see if I still feel pain.